Welcome to the Kick It Open podcast, where we celebrate bold moves and reveal the strategies shaping success in the wealth management industry. Our goal? To inspire you to kick the doors open on your personal success. I'm your host, Shelby Nicholl. Today, I am thrilled to welcome Jeannette Kuda, President and Chief Operating Officer of TIFIN AG and TIFIN AMP, to the conversation. Prior to joining TIFIN AG in 2024, Jeannette was the COO of Wealth Management Solutions at LPL Financial. In this role, she honed her expertise in leveraging tech and strategic innovation to drive advisor success, skills that are now driving her success at TIFIN. Beyond her career success, Jeannette is someone I deeply admire. She's one of my most favorite people in the industry, and I'm so glad she's here. Welcome.
Shelby, thanks for having me. I echo those thoughts. You're one of my favorite people, and this is one of my favorite podcasts, so I'm so excited to be a guest on here with you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, let's drop right in. I'm so thrilled you're here. Let's start with kind of your journey in wealth management. How'd you get into this field? What led you to your current role at TIFIN?
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of plan when I was young. I know some people know what they want to be when they grow up. I was not one of those people. And I spent, I think, the early part of my career sort of wishing I had that plan and seeing other people who seemingly had one and knew exactly what they wanted to do. So I started my career working for an RIA. I didn't know anything about the industry. I just sort of showed up one day and needed a job and learned there how much I loved helping people with their journey, their financial journey. From there, I spent a good amount of time at TIA and then at LPL, where I met you and other fantastic folks. And along the way, I really was a collector of experiences. And that journey really shaped kind of my role into a COO, which I didn't really know existed early on, and something I really have loved the work. It's doing something different every day, which really just lights me up. And so I ended up at TIFIN AG. We met TIFIN through a partnership at LPL. I was really impressed with TIFIN. They have a great match of folks who are like industry experts who really understand the wealth management industry, coupled with some of the best minds in AI and technology. And that's sort of magic, what they do here. And I had spent the last 25 years in wealth management. I knew it really well. But the exciting thing to be at the beginning of a journey in AI, it's going to revolutionize everything. And to be part of that was just so exciting. I couldn't turn down doing something much different. So sort of left the corporate world to do the startup world, which is very different for me. And it was really exciting. And it's been about a year now, and it's paid dividends. I really loved it.
Oh, I love seeing that growth. And I think the startup environment and entrepreneurial spirit that you guys are bringing, and then the combination of AI is just incredible. So let's level set with listeners. What is TIFIN AG, and how is it helping advisors and firms in our industry?
So TIFIN AG is focused on the problem of organic growth. And when you look at advisor growth in their businesses, predominantly they've been growing by inorganic growth methods. So think about acquiring books of business, acquiring other advisors, which has gotten really expensive, like 15 times revenue. So it's not a way that's feasible for all advisors to grow anymore. So we knew that, coupled with my experiences at other places of like trying to solve the organic growth conundrum. Like I've seen many attempts at solving it, and they usually never go anywhere. You put a lot of people in a room and you think through it, and not a lot of results come out the other end. But applying an AI lens and using these new technologies towards this problem, I think really changes. And so that's what we aim to do here at TIFIN AG, is to use AI, use machine learning, apply it to organic growth, and bring solutions in the hands of advisors to help them grow their book of business. And that could be many ways, but primarily we look at expanding your wallet share or cross-selling across your client base, or look at retaining your clients within your book of business.
Oh, fantastic. So let's back up just slightly. I want to dive way in on organic growth, et cetera. But I do want to back up just a tiny bit. Can you talk about the different types of AI and how TIFIN is using those different types of AI? This was something we talked about in our prep call, and I think the listeners would really benefit from it.
Yeah, and you hear different terms be thrown around. People sort of categorize them in different ways. I think about them in like two broad categories. So you have Gen AI, which is what we all sort of know, Chat GPT and things that have sort of hit popular sphere and people really know. I think about that as people talking to computers, right? And so you're querying, you're getting access to information. These are very, very powerful tools. Also hold a whole different risk profile for all the reasons that you see out in the press. Then you have the kind of AI that's applied at AG and at AMP, which is supervised AI. And that's more of an advanced kind of machine learning. And so where you see that really being applicable is where you have large amounts of historical data. You can put it through these models and look for patterns of behavior, and then find ways that you can predict future behaviors and then take action, to be able to capitalize on those behaviors. And so that is where we apply that for the growth engines of AMP and AG.
Okay. And
now, TIFIN, we have both kinds, just to be clear, but for AMP and AG and growth, supervised AI is really where the power comes from.
And supervised just means that we have put in a specific set of data to train up that tool. We've supervised that the data set is valid. Is that what supervised really means?
Correct. And that you don't sort of have that sort of unknown of training a model and how to respond to kind of the anything that can be asked, and where some of the danger lies potentially, where ours is very predictable, right? Predictable answers to predictable questions that you're planning ahead of time, and the models know exactly what they're doing. The variable is that we're training it on different data depending on your firm. So the model is, if I do it for Shelby's book of business, is going to be much different than I do it for Jeanette's book of business because it's different data.
It's interesting. I'm a huge user of AI, right? Mostly chat and creating my own GPTs. I recently posted how I created a GPT to help me with this podcast as an example posted that on LinkedIn.
I saw that.
And it's so interesting because when you're creating a GPT or you're doing AI work, the AI wants to make you happy. And so what I think is interesting, it wants to give you an answer that you're going to like. And that means it can, in that unsupervised world, it can kind of make stuff up. In the supervised world, what I'm hearing is we've already planned what questions we're asking, we planned what data we're using, and so less likelihood of the tool set just making it up.
Yes, and how it presents itself, maybe just to be more clear, in a use case like AG, it's presenting itself as signals, as scores. So I can predict, who is likely to be a consolidator in your book of business, rank them very high, and so you know where to focus your time and attention. But it isn't the sort of thing where I'm asking questions and looking for responses the way you're describing, which is the generative AI.
Yes, got it. All right, so let's talk about TIFIN's use cases. What are the main use cases that TIFIN AG, I guess, is seeking to solve? And if you want to comment on TIFIN AMP, that would be great too.
Yeah, maybe I'll start at the TIFIN level. So TIFIN as a firm is really focused entirely on the wealth management space. So we don't have solutions in pharmaceuticals or medical or anything else, which is a bit unique out in the ecosystem. Most firms sort of apply AI across many, many fields. We are specialists in wealth management, in financial services, only in that space. We have solutions across the spectrum, and so they fall into these sort of growth solutions that are AG and AMP, and then a host of other solutions across the ecosystem of where money is held. So Magnify, for instance, is a direct-to-consumer solutions for those who manage money themselves. Sage is sort of outsourced CIO for an advisor who manage money. At Work is solutions within the workplace environment. Things like Helix are around alternative investments and simplifying the use case for alts in portfolios. And so we have use cases across the spectrum and applying different kinds of AI in those use cases. For AG and AMP, again, it's all focused on growth. In AG, it's organic growth. Mostly, like I said, wallet share expansion, retention, and things along the risk profile of clients. AMP is similar, but we apply it to wholesalers and asset managers. So it's a similar solution helping them get tuned in to growth and be able to be more effective at scale, but a whole different market is applied to.
As you think about growth, et cetera, I'm always thinking also about the succession crisis that is coming up and really starting to emerge in the industry, right? We've been talking about it for years. I'd say we're starting to see it in actuality a little bit right now. And as advisors are managing larger and larger client sets, potentially, one of the things that is hard for them is personalization at scale. How does TIFIN and how can AI really help advisors balance that growth and maintaining those deep relationships? It feels like those go hand in hand.
100%, Shelby. I think you hit the nail on the head of the use case for a general use case for AI. And it's funny because what you see in the press still is this sort of fear that comes through of like, hey, AI is coming to take my job and going to replace people. And I don't believe that. We don't believe that at TIFIN. I think it is an enabler. It enhances people, but it certainly doesn't eliminate or replace them. And this is such a good use case where we're seeing advisors having to manage a larger and larger book of business, wanting to still grow, and not really be able to have the scale to actually spend time or effort on it. Because it gets to be impossible at some point, right? One person can only do so much. Even a team of people can only do so much. And so where you apply AI in your business, or where you don't have that scale, is a great use case for thinking about if you're out there looking for solutions, what kind of solution can help me do this? In the case of growth, AG is great for that because we can really help you focus on those folks that are more likely to take action on growth and bring your world of advice to more people, which is our mission. We want to do more of that. And so if you're able to uncover assets, some great use cases that we have that's kind of come out of, which I love, the use cases are so tangible and so fun. But there was an advisor who spoke, for instance, of he thought he had all of his clients' assets. He thought, hey, I'll give this AI thing a try and we'll see what happens. He applied it to one of the names that came up was a client who he was the best man in their wedding. So he's like, all right, like this, I clearly know where all his assets are. He's told me everything. Turns out he had $1 million cash mandate he never told the advisor about because he didn't see the advisor as someone who could manage his cash mandate. He saw him as a stock picker, and it just never occurred to him through planning or anything else to sort of talk about this. And so because we gave him the signal and he was able to ask the right questions, he uncovered it, won the mandate, and was a believer in kind of what we do, which is always a fantastic thing. And I think that's where you see where, he could have started at the A's and ended at the Z's, calling down his book of business with what he maybe thought was the right way to approach growth. But our signals helped him really zone in on who in his book was where he should focus that amount of energy on and to success, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that's such a good story too, because it was one where he knew that client so well. He's like, I'm going to give them a really hard case. There's no way it's going to tell me anything new. And then it absolutely did. That's awesome.
Yeah, we love that.
Yeah, right. I love surprises like that. One of the things he had to do, though, was then share his data with you, obviously, in order for you to know who his clients were, to be able to do that work. I sometimes hear advisors say things like, oh, AI is too scary. I don't trust it. I don't do anything on AI because I don't want to share any data. I don't want any touching over there. What advice do you guys give to firms or advisors that are worried about that data sharing?
Yeah, Shelby, that's a real concern and not one we take lightly here at TIFIN. And we have all of the internal protocols, which we would share with any potential client on the way that we are very careful to protect their data when it's in transit, when it's at rest. They know exactly what we're doing with it. We have all the right certifications or SOC 2 verified, all of that. So we take it very seriously too, and we do think it's really important. And I would encourage anyone who's thinking about any vendor, AI or not, sharing data with, that you do your due diligence to make sure that this is someone that you can trust with that awesome responsibility of having access to your data. But the fear of it, you can't let that stop progress. And that's what we see all too often is, it becomes a blocker in the business to innovation and new ideas. And when that happens, you really get left behind. If you're not experimenting and you're not trying new things, you're going to be really left behind. And so having a process which you're able to assess that risk, mitigate it where possible, and accept it where you need to, so that you can be participating in all the great things AI has to offer, I think is really, really important. The other thing with data, besides sharing, maybe I'll add to this, is people often, worry about sharing data, the second most common concern we hear is, hey, listen, like the quality of my data is not good enough. I'm going to take on this Herculean project that someone told me I need to do to get my data in a place where it's good enough to share. And I'll come back to you in a couple of years when I've done that massive project. So maybe the first message is that like everybody says that, so you are not alone. So that maybe that's good to hear. And second, that shouldn't be a blocker either. When you work with a firm like TIFIN and similar firms to us, dealing with messy, unstructured data is like we eat that for breakfast, right? Like it's just commonplace for us. And so finding partners that can help navigate that and be able to deliver value for you should not be a challenge that gets you started with experimenting in this space. So yes, AI needs data to be effective and to be able to deliver value, but it's a risk you can overcome. and the quality of your data, like work with a partner who can help you with that.
I think that's such a good reminder to all of us, right? Because it's also a reminder, if you have not played with chat or some of these other tool sets, even put a messy spreadsheet through one, and you can see also how it can transform the data so quickly and clean it up for you. So last night, just a tiny little example of this, I have this group in St. Louis called Women Leaders in Finance, and we are having an event in mid-February. Somebody asked, hey, who all did we send our invitation to? I was exporting the list to people for that use, right? And the spreadsheet comes out and it's just messy. It's so messy. It's like first name in a column and then the email address and the last name's in the last column. And there's a bunch of data that's like not great, that I know is not great. I was able to just put that in chat because it wasn't anything that I needed to worry about, and throw it in chat and say, I want it to say first name in column 1, last name in column 2, then email address. Then I want you to try to infer the first name and the last name from the email address if you don't have it. Fill that in. 10 seconds later, I had a cleaned up spreadsheet that I could send out to someone. It's beautiful, amazing.
Isn't it?
It's beautiful.
I remember early on in my career, I would spend whole days messing with an Excel spreadsheet to get it formatted the way you needed it to be. And I know how to write all the fancy formulas in Excel that I never use anymore because I don't need to.
Right.
How much time it gives you back.
Yes.
It's a great experiment. I love that experiment, Shelby, because it's really something listeners can go do today and sort of just get a glimpse in the power. And if you think about applying that across your business, like in all aspects, like how much value you derive from that. I think it's a great idea.
It was a tiny example, but it made me get over myself about dirty data, right? Yeah. Data's dirty, but we can clean it up pretty darn quickly now. So
100%. And we have such smart data scientists here at TIFIN to be able to do that. Like we have the expertise. And maybe another concern that comes up, if you think you've got to clean your data, now you've got to hire a team of people to do it, and you've got to invest millions of dollars to sort of get anywhere on your journey. And it sort of just becomes insurmountable. And how do I even start this journey? We don't actually have to do that in most cases. Right? There are firms like ours that are good at this and can help you sort of on that journey, and get you, we often let the pursuit of perfect get in the way of good. Right? Yes, there is this nirvana and there is this perfect, but none of us are ever going to actually see that. It's not a reality. And there's so much good that you can get immediate that you're not taking advantage of, that I'd love to see more folks just be on that journey.
Are you a financial advisor ready for a big leap? Making the decision to leave your firm, whether it's a broker-dealer or an RIA, can feel like stepping into the unknown. Muriel Consulting provides personalized, unbiased support to help you navigate transformational career moves with confidence and confidentiality. Schedule a discovery call at murielconsulting.com. MURIEL consulting.com.
Well, I really love the case study that you were sharing earlier, Jeanette. Do you have another kind of use case beyond that one that was on I guess the prior one was specifically on wallet share. What's another use case that you have?
Yeah, we love use cases, Shelby. I think one of the things about us is we're kind of like nerds in this topic, and what we enjoy is solving problems. And so we really look to our clients or potential clients to talk about what's their pain points and growth, and then think about if we can apply what we do to help them with that problem. An example of that is something that's come up recently is we're looking at the banking channel. And so what's interesting about banks is they have sort of this built-in referral network of clients through the different channels within the bank. But there's only, I think the industry average is around 3% crossover between those channels. And there's a host of reasons why that's true, mostly because the way banks have developed over time, they're very siloed. For any of your listeners that have worked in a bank, you've sort of probably felt that where I came up in the trust world and trust companies, and it's a definitely different culture. They may not talk to the other parts of the bank, and you have to, if you're going to refer clients, you need sort of this trust between those things and a common leader to care about growth across the industry or across the business to be able to succeed there. And so banks traditionally haven't been that great at kind of being able to cross-sell to their clients. And so we are working on now developing a package in partnership with some banks to be able to help them with that problem and look at how you could take, for instance, lending clients and turn them into wealth management clients and really help them with different parts of their financial journey. And then maybe next step on that is taking a look at wealth management clients and look at their lending needs and try to kind of work it in all directions. And so that's a journey we're on now. We're really excited about. And I think there are other like endless use cases that we're really excited to explore. And we see ourselves as partners with our clients to be able to help them meet any of those challenges.
Oh, I love that. And I think that could be revolutionary for these banks, right? And I especially think, by the way, I grew up in rural Missouri, so I think a lot about community banks often. And that could be revolutionary for them to be able to deploy that type of power and have those connections.
You've seen it firsthand.
Yeah, serving
sure.
the true client needs of some of those communities nationwide. So,
and you sort
how
of
cool.
add that with the overlay that, banks in a large part have been sort of left behind in this tech revolution that's happened over the last decade or so, where it's been really focused on RIAs and IBDs and sort of that market. And they're losing share to that, right? And they're having to play catch up a little bit. And I think it's such an opportunity where AI solutions, some of these larger firms are actually moving a lot slower because they have all this, historical tech debt or just infrastructure issues, that it could be an advantage now to a smaller community bank or regional bank to be able to sort of leapfrog technology in this time and place where we're in right now.
Tell me a little bit more about TIFIN solutions. They're obviously highly tailored. Many of the firms that you're working with are sort of these large enterprises, and you just announced a new partnership I saw with Cetera.
Yes.
Can you kind of tell us about that pilot program and what Cetera is hoping to deliver to their advisors?
Yeah, we're really excited to be working with Cetera, and we're just getting started now in the new year with them. And I mean, it's so much potential, and I think everybody who's involved is so excited. And to be in the, independent channel is just really exciting for us because it's a new challenge, and we're really excited to come bring our solutions there. Cetera is really thoughtful about how they help their advisors bring advice to more people and bring more of it to them. And so they really are looking to start with a commercially available package that we do, which is the wallet share expansion. Because our models are deployed within each environment, doing a pilot is such a great way to get started. Like any new technology, you probably don't want to out the gate send it out to everybody. You want to be able to see it in a smaller scale, to be able to touch it and test it and make sure that it works for your use case and your environment. And so that's what we're working on them right now to do with a set of their advisors. So our models will be trained with their data. They'll be able to give bespoke solutions and signals to their advisors that are in the pilot. Our models will then learn from what happened. So these advisors will go out and they'll act on our signals. We'll see wins, we'll see losses, whatever happens, we'll kind of go back into the model and retrain them and get them really dialed in. And when we start to see success in that pilot, hopefully we'll be able to expand that across Cetera and make it available to a larger set of their advisors under their umbrella. So we're really excited to be working with them. And we love the way that we're sort of setting up this partnership for success on both sides. And it's just really exciting.
Oh, that is really exciting. Is this one of the first times you guys have worked with groups of independent advisors?
We have others, but Cetera is a much larger scale. And so I think being able to do it with them is just a little bit different for us. And really, we love these challenges. And so being able to solve it here is very exciting.
It sounds really fun. I'm excited. And I hope some of my friends at Cetera, including like one of my recent podcast guests was from Cetera. So hopefully maybe they'll get to benefit from this. So can't wait to hear from them.
Get herself in the pilot.
Yeah, exactly. I'll mention that to Stevie. Okay, so I want to change gears just a little bit and talk about kind of, how we met really was this formation of a group of kind of former colleagues that we had. We were all coming together to unite around our shared experiences. We wanted to support each other. How have personal and professional relationships like ours with our group of women or others, how have they kind of influenced your career?
I mean, it's been transformational for me. Like I said, my journey started off with me having no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. And if it wasn't for the fact that I had met amazing people who have sort of helped me in my journey, I don't know what I would be doing today. Honestly. And our group is fantastic because I think there is such power in women sort of supporting each other. Sort of you hear more about the opposite of that, of women tearing each other down, and I hate that. And so I love that I have groups of women in my life who understand what I do, understand the industry, understand the challenges. I can talk to about my personal career challenges and growth challenges. It's just really, really valuable. But it's been that way across my whole career journey. I think an example of that is Rob Petman, who I worked for at LPL. He is a mentor of mine. I don't know that I would be seeing myself in C-suite or a COO if it wasn't for his sort of pointing out to me my skill set and what I would be good at and putting me in that path and supporting me along the way. And so seeking out people like that in your life that are supportive of you and your cheerleaders and really help you sort of see the forest of the trees is just incredible. Sometimes you run into them, and I ran into Shelby, I ran into Rob. Like, these have all been great influences on my life. In other instances, I've had to seek them out. I'm a bit of an introvert. I'm actually quite shy. People usually are surprised to hear that about me because I talk too much. But I've been intentional in my career about building networks and setting aside a little time each week to sort of nurture a network. And I think that's valuable early on in your career, but it doesn't stop being valuable as you get more mature in your career. Those, I would say, maybe even more valuable. And you use your network differently. I think then when you're younger, you may use it in a way to sort of understand what work is like or what jobs are like and companies are like. Now I use it to really understand the industry and to have connections with people on the inside who can tell me the way things really work. And that's really helpful to creating strategy and creating business decisions. But the network has always been really important to me. And I would encourage anyone to really, no matter where you are in your journey, just an hour a week on nurturing your network. It doesn't need to be a ridiculous amount of time. I'm having coffee tomorrow with an old colleague before work, and really excited to reconnect and hear about everything he has going on right now. And it's fun. It's not work. It's fun.
Yeah, I think that's an important lesson, and one that it is easy to put to the side, especially when you're very slammed busy at work, et cetera. It's easy to let those networking coffees and lunches go. It's funny, the very first episode of this podcast was on the topic of networking, and we talked about it being intentional. And I'm like you, I wasn't a natural networker. I am now, but I had to learn how to do it. It's not just a skill you either have or you don't. You learn it.
No, you're really great at it. So if you taught yourself that, Shelby, it's quite impressive. Don't let the fear of not being good at it. Because I think the big secret in life is everybody is as awkward and concerned about it as you are. And when you kind of see that, you're like, all right, it's fine. I'm just going to go be myself and have coffee with someone and it'll be fantastic. And I also learned early on that you can get a lot of great intel. You can meet a lot of powerful people simply by buying them a cup of coffee. It is a cheap way. People try really hard to make these connections in all kinds of interesting ways. Just offer to buy someone a cup of coffee. You get more yeses than nos for sure.
Yes, absolutely true. Okay, well, related to coffee is staying energized, right? You have this new work that you're doing. It's so fast paced. You're in essentially a startup. You've gone into true tech, right, with AI, which is in constant reinvention. How do you stay energized and sort of adapted in the face of all that change?
Personally, I think, I mentioned I'm an introvert, and, I know myself, and I know I need a certain amount of disconnect and downtime to sort of recharge my batteries and to be my best. And so I learned that about myself. And so I structure my day and my week to allow some of that in there so that I can do that. And it's not always possible. You're on the road, you're traveling. It's really can be hard, but trying to find ways to sort of interject that into your day, even in small ways, for me has been really helpful. I think the other thing in coming to a startup world is coming to a startup with a great culture. Culture has always been really important to me at every firm I've worked with. I've always been lucky to be at places that have really strong cultures. And it's true here at TIFIN as well. We all sort of know we're in this startup land and what that means in terms of commitment of time and energy, and being supportive of each other in that. Speed is a really important cultural element. And so operating at speed and supporting each other in that. So getting things out of each other's way, allowing people to operate really quickly and having a team that sets up for that is really, really great. The other one I think that's really important, and it's easy here at TIFIN because it's part of our culture. If it's not in your culture where you are, I'd encourage you to be a bearer of this one. But it's really around speaking your truth and being honest with everybody. And when you're not holding stuff in because you're afraid to say it, because you're afraid of the political winds that sort of get in the way of speaking your truth or hurting people's feelings, that expends so much internal energy doing that. Also, how much wasted time are you having? People not telling you the truth? Just tell me. And so we really encourage that. And when everybody's telling the truth all the time, you sort of get away with all the bad things you're worried about. No one's trying to hurt my feelings. They're trying to help me. And so I love it. I get excited when people are like, hey, listen, I got to tell you something. It's really exciting. And so I think being at a firm with a really strong culture and being part of that and really jumping in head first and embracing it has been the lifeline of me coming and changing my career in this big way over the last year.
That is not a cultural value that we hear mentioned a lot. Speak your truth. That's a
But how do you
really
move fast?
powerful one. Yeah.
You know, and I'm going to guess if you look back on most firms that you've been with, moving fast was not part of the culture.
That's right.
You know, busy was part of the culture, doing a lot of things, wearing a lot of hats, all of that's part of the culture, but actually moving fast, not so much. And I'm having to learn that skill set here. Like it is new because I've been trained in a equally valuable, but a whole different environment. And so having the support of a team that is in the same journey is just fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a cultural value. You're right for speed. And it's one that has been kind of taken out of a lot of us who have grown up in the corporates, right? It's one that you're taught to be really nice and pleasing, et cetera, not to speak your whole truth, right? And it doesn't mean being mean, but you're not taught to speak your truth.
No, and there's a lot of good reasons for that. You know, a big company with, big regulations and big risks and, really moving at a pace that you are identifying that is great. You wouldn't want it any other way in some ways. So it's not all meant to be a criticism, but if you're going to move into tech world, into startup world, if you're building your own business, those environments, you can't afford that time lag. You've really got to be, addressing risk. I'm not saying ignore it, but you really need to still be moving at speed and figuring out how to, break through those barriers that you can do that.
Wow, such an important lesson. Glad we ended, that we talked about that today. Okay, so before we wrap up, I want to always end on sort of this little fun note with a quick round of questions designed for your off-the-cuff thoughts and, bonus points if you surprise our listeners in any way. So just have, a few questions for you. All right. What was the last thing you used ChatGPT for?
Well, you mentioned the spreadsheet thing. I think, messy spreadsheets and messy minds might be a similar use case. So really helping me organize my thoughts and writing emails. Like used to spend so much time writing emails, and now I can put my messy mind in ChatGPT and it writes the email for me. And it's just such a time saver. So every day I'm doing that.
Yes, same here. All right. What's your favorite way to recharge after a busy week?
Like I said, I need that time to kind of be on my own or with my husband and my dogs. And so, an evening at home on the couch with a great dinner. I love to cook, and spending time with my 3 dogs and 2 cats. Yes, I said it. I have a problem. It's probably the best way for me to recharge.
All right. What is one word that you would use to describe AI's potential, especially in wealth management?
The word that comes to mind is limitless. I think we're just scratching the surface on this, Shelby. We have no idea where we can go. And we're getting into a usable place where people are going off the benches and stopping experimenting and really employing the stuff. I can't wait to see where we go in the next couple of years.
That's awesome. What is a podcast, a book, or resource that you would recommend to advisors curious about the topic?
Yeah, I'll be maybe a little self-serving on this one. I think we have really great resources on the TIFIN and the TIFINAG.coms. So if you go there under news and resources, you'll find a ton of really good thought leadership pieces on the topics we talked about today, Shelby. One in particular is our AI adoption playbook. So if you're thinking about adopting AI, that might be a really good starter place for folks to catch up.
Okay, great. Well, I will link to that in the show notes also.
Perfect.
Awesome. All right. What's one skill that you've always wanted to learn, but you haven't had the chance to yet?
I have a really long list, but the one that I think of, maybe because we got snow yesterday in Charlotte, which we never had, is ice skating. I've always wanted to learn how to ice skate, like not figure skating, but just to be able to stand up and skate.
Did you roller skate a lot as a child?
I didn't, occasionally, like a birthday party or something, but not a ton. I'm not so great on roller skates either. Rollerblading was a big thing when I was in college. Everybody was rollerblading and I couldn't do it. And I think maybe that's where this stems from. I still want to be good at skating.
Yeah, you want to go back and get there. Yeah.
That's right.
All right.
That's right.
Well, then as we'd wrap up, I'd also always like to ask, what is one door that you are kicking open right now?
I think I am still on the journey of kicking down the startup tech world. Going from corporate to small company to startup world is such a big change, and I'm still in my first year. So feel like I'm still getting it right and kicking that door down, but I'm loving the journey of doing it.
Love that. Jeanette, thank you so much for being here today. This was a fabulous conversation.
It was so fun. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. And for all of our listeners, I hope this really inspires you to think about the steps that you're making to achieve your highest ambitions. My hope for you is that you are kicking the door open every single day on your personal success. Until next time. Thanks for listening to the Kick It Open podcast. The Kick It Open podcast is hosted and developed by Muriel Network. Kick It Open is produced by Shelby Nicholl, edited by Aaron Sherman, graphic design by John Gallagher. If you found today's podcast valuable, please help us out by subscribing and sharing with your friends. Just click that little plus sign or the follow button wherever you get your podcasts.